And welcome again to another episode of I Love Black People. And we've been so blessed today to have a brother that's been dedicating his life to our people, and in a way that will hopefully empower you to protect yourself in this time of the pandemic. We got Dr. Ronald Andrews, MD, on the show.
This is I Love Black People Radio on H.U.R. Voices, Sirius XM, Channel 141. I Love Black People is more than a radio show. I Love Black People is a call from our ancestors to protect us from racial profiling all across the world. Go to iloveblackpeople.com and become a member today. Membership empowers you to live fearlessly and protect Black people globally from racism and xenophobia. Join us today and become a member of our global network with an online global green book with Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses to protect you and your community. Membership is free, and with you, we will become 10 million strong worldwide. I am because we are.
Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Andrews. Please introduce yourself to our wonderful audience.
All right, good evening. Thank you for having me and welcoming me on the show. As you mentioned, I'm Dr. Ronald Andrews. I'm a board certified physician practicing both internal medicine and pediatrics in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but also licensed in Texas as well. I have a private practice where I see patients of all ages on a daily basis, even during COVID, face to face and through telemedicine. On the telemedicine front, because I know you like innovation, I'm the chief medical officer and part owner of Relief Telemed, which is a telemedicine telehealth company who we provide face-to-face, video face-to-face visits. But what's unique is that we have nurses that can be directed from the doctor out into the community to the person's home to obtain vital signs, testing, or even therapy options, not just for COVID, but whatever their underlying condition that made them interact with us at the time was. Two things that I'm excited about besides that, that are big in my introduction are just recently with COVID, I've been appointed by our governor, John Bell Edwards, as a chief medical officer of Bring Back Louisiana, which is an initiative to fight COVID-19. And number two, for all of our D9 Black Greek-led organizations, I've been appointed the chairman of the Healthy Kappa's Healthy Community, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, Southwestern Province.
All right,
So
love that.
exactly. So that's two of the three and four things I'm most proud of that I thought was worth sharing with the audience.
No, first of all, I think that's amazing. And the fact that you're actually helping us as well as creating while you're doing it. That telemedicine, and I definitely want to get into the pandemic, but with all the changes going on, could you just say a little bit more about the telemedicine and maybe if there's a way, our audience is literally national as well as global. Where can they get in contact with your telemedicine, and is there like a website? We on this show, we want to make sure we empower our brothers and sisters and connecting with people like yourself directly.
Well, definitely. I would say first and foremost, since we're a technology-based company, we are proud to be in the Apple and Google Play Store.
Oh, wow.
So they can download our app right there. It's called Relief Telemed. Obviously, there's a website, relieftelemed.com. And usually on all three platforms, the big social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, it's usually Relief Health, relieftelemed.com or some derivative. So we're on all the platforms, but you can download our app in the Google Play Store or Apple Store.
Awesome. We got to get you on the I Love Black People platform too. That's awesome. Now let's talk about, again, the things that you're working on now and dealing with this pandemic. So many conversations are being made about the vaccine, and now they're talking about giving people more jabs and more boosters. But let's talk about something that I don't think is normally discussed as much. What happens no matter if you're vaccinated or not, you get it. Of course, we're not here to say don't get vaccinated, so definitely want everybody to go out there and be responsible and do the social distancing and everything you're supposed to do. But suppose you do get it. Now you're someone, and you've seen this. They always talk about Louisiana. They've been talking about Louisiana in the cases. What happens? I'm found to have COVID. What typically is the process? What does it look like?
Okay, well, that becomes a problem. You bring up a couple of things in that question. So, number one, what I tell everybody is to take a step back first and remember that when these vaccines were created warp speed, none of them promoted you wouldn't get COVID. What they promoted were the science at the time showed that Pfizer and Moderna, that you had a 94 and 95% chance of not becoming seriously ill, hospitalized, or die from COVID. None of them ever claimed that you would not catch COVID. And then on some of that original research, Johnson and Johnson was about 10 percentage points behind. Probably I think it was 84% chance that those three scenarios wouldn't happen. I think unfortunately, it was great in the original virus we had and some of the early variants, but Delta has really changed everything and flipped this whole pandemic upside down on its head. Because all of a sudden now, while if you look at hospital data and statistics, the majority of people who are admitted to hospitals, the majority of people who are in ICUs, the majority of people who are unfortunately dying from COVID are unvaccinated. But then now you start having people come in who, hey, I received all of my, two vaccinations, or one through Johnson and Johnson, but I still caught it. And then what happens from there? You get into that boosters, if I'll go there first, since we're talking about vaccinations, where now all of a sudden boosters are gaining approval. And depending on how you want to look at it, some people who had the Johnson and Johnson have gone and gotten one of the early recommendations of getting a Pfizer and Moderna on top of the Johnson and Johnson you already had received, no matter how long ago you got that vaccine. With the Pfizer and Moderna, they've been suggesting that somewhere now around month 8 or 9 from when it first came out, that now those people need to be revaccinated or obtain that booster shot. So it'll be 8 or 9 months from when you receive the vaccine. But obviously, a lot of healthcare workers received it in January, February. So that time is rapidly approaching. And I know people who work in hospital settings who have already received their booster. Lastly, on that front, which I think is intriguing, is that some of the data that's coming out is that even with its first misstep or two, that the Johnson and Johnson vaccine may be holding up against the Delta variant a little bit better and longer with Delta. And there's thought that maybe people who receive Johnson and Johnson just actually go get a second Johnson and Johnson booster. Because then if you already had the 84% and that is protecting, seems to be lasting a little bit longer and higher percentage rates than Pfizer and Moderna, that maybe your booster is the same one. And that is the latest research I happen to read, and it seems intriguing to me.
Awesome. So now you're vaccinated, and just to say you still get it. What are the things that happen, and what's that look like? You go, I guess you have some symptoms. What does that process look like? And then what have you seen that's different from where it was before, or have you seen any differences? And what would be some of your best practices if in the slim chance or the chance that you might get it, and what happens next?
Okay. Again, great question. And a good Delta has turned everything upside down. So I was listening to a talk show this morning that was asking a similar question. And honestly, I deal with this at least weekly, if not every day, of patients calling my office saying, I have COVID now. What do I do? A lot of them are in disbelief because some of them had been vaccinated and they were under the guise that they wouldn't catch it or couldn't catch it. And that is totally not the case, as I mentioned a moment ago. So one of my biggest pet peeves in these conversations, and it's not the patient, it's honestly my other healthcare providers in this scenario. But what I'm seeing a lot of that's disheartening is that if you show up to an emergency room or an urgent care center and there's either a doctor, a nurse, or a doctor, or a nurse practitioner, or a physician assistant. You present to them with cold and virus symptoms. You let them know you might have COVID or you might have been exposed to COVID. A lot of them in Louisiana, because of what we're suffering through with the pandemic right now, being the epicenter, have like hours long waiting lists, especially if you need to be tested. So what has happened on more than one occasion, because I deal with it, I promise, every week, patients go in sick, similar if they have a cold, sinus, or flu. They happen to get tested for COVID, and I promise you, if they test negative for COVID, they get better health care than if they test positive. And what I mean by that
Wow.
is, if you test negative for COVID, it seems like the light clicks on, oh, okay, something else is wrong with you. Let me give you an antibiotic if I think, you're saying best practices, if I think that's medically indicated. Let me get you some cough and cold syrup. Do you need steroids? An inhaler? What do I think is the best way to treat you? I don't get any calls saying I went to the hospital or urgent care and they tested me for COVID, I was negative. Now what? The question really becomes, I tested positive and they immediately just discharged me.
Wow.
Like, hey, you have COVID, go home, stay safe, quarantine, from work or school, and follow up with your doctor, in 10 days, 10 to 14 days, once you're no longer contagious. And I'm telling you, they leave with no medicine, no symptomatic medicine. Maybe they tell them, hey, take some Tylenol and Motrin for if you have fever, cramps, or aches, but they don't end up getting any health care, which is completely insane to me, if I could say it the lightest way on your radio show.
Go ahead.
Without cursing.
Yeah.
And so they end up having to call, and I know I'm not the only doctor dealing with this. They end up having to call their doctor who didn't see them, didn't test them. Hey, I tested positive. Now what do I do? And the sad thing is, some of those, let's just back up a little bit. Now, the scenario I told you at the hospital and urgent care, they got paid to see the patient. They didn't just get paid to test them for COVID. But now they're having to reach out and ask somebody else they know and trust what is the best possible treatment option. So
good point. So they actually paid either
they
through
paid
insurance or somehow paid to actually get treated. All they got was tested and sent home. Wow.
If they have COVID. Now, if you're negative, then you're good. They'll still go, and they're not kicking them out like, oh, you have the plague, I don't want you, in my facility anymore. It's just some kind of way, a medical default with some providers that, oh, you tested positive, go home and quarantine. And they give them no other medical advice or treatment. So it is the most amazing thing. And I don't want to get too far off base, but the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services have come up with, what they call CMS, actually a payment or reimbursement for this scenario, because so many doctors during the pandemic were getting phone calls. And don't get me wrong, it's probably it's like $15. So, but it's actually, if a patient calls your office with COVID, that you could actually do a visit over the phone and get paid for, which is, I'm talking night and day. This is like never allowed outside of the pandemic. And people may have known they've called their doctor for a refill, or we call me in some for a cough, cold, or abdominal pain. Usually those are just a courtesy that your doctor will provide to their established patients.
I've been leaning on the shield. I've been leaning on the shield so much. I didn't know that wasn't coming, but humbly, yes, sir.
Yeah, but they do actually now. Unfortunately, hey, we had that kind of bond in Kappa Alpha Psi. So what I will say is, they do actually have what we call a reimbursable code, because it was happening so often. And I really don't understand. We do rapid testing in my office. We do PCR testing through the telemedicine company as well. But we don't stop the visit at here are your results, and then you go down one or two algorithms depending on what those results are. I mean, the people are still sick and need, healthcare and guidance and medication. So that is my pet peeve, my current pet peeve. But what I will get to is treatment wise, don't get me wrong, for mild disease, treatments really have been just over the counter, believe it or not, vitamins. I routinely tell my patients that they want to stock up on vitamins if they can get them all separately. Um, vitamin C, people know they often take that for colds and boost their immune system. But vitamin D has been shown to be very effective, in COVID, either for, build up your immune system beforehand or treatment if you have it. B12 and folic acid, even if it's as a B complex vitamin, that has been very helpful as far as building your energy and stuff like that. And then also elderberry. So I've been telling people they can go buy them all. Here's a cocktail, so to speak, of 5 vitamins they can go take. Or I just tell them, if you go look in your medicine cabinet and you have a 1-a-day vitamin, you just may have to take more than that 1 vitamin a day. I tell them to double up, if not triple up, for that short term to get the amount of levels they want of each of those vitamins. But if you go look on the back of it, I'm not plugging Centrum, and I tell my patients to buy the cheapest dollar store, Dollar General bottle of 100 they can find. It does not have to be a brand name or GNC, not that I'm knocking those companies. Just go get the cheapest one you can find, because your body can't absorb all of that anyway. But I would go ahead and double up or triple up whatever the usual daily recommended allowance is. I'd probably take twice or 3 times that much. So those things have been heavily effective. What I do want to mention is, and we are moving into this with my telemedicine company, is one of the questions that came up on this other talk show earlier was, why don't Black people, or why hasn't that Regeneron infusion made it to the hood?
Right, there you go. Trump and Trump is a banana peel slip from being good. Giuliani did, he made it. When I hear that these folks are dying still, I'm like, if Trump is still alive, if Giuliani's still alive,
Right.
Ray, everybody should still be alive.
Right. So, now let me stay on task, because the funniest thing is, and I don't have any problem with these memes, and we're not talking about everybody in the hood, but it's some of us as well. The same people who don't want the vaccine, because it seems like you're at least accepting and tolerating a pro-vaccine just from our conversations today. But the same people who were saying the vaccine isn't FDA approved and it's just hocus pocus science, know that these infusions are not FDA approved either. I mean, they are emergency use authorization as well. So I do need to throw that out there. We know about vaccines, but this one, just Pfizer got the full approval thus far. And then we also have this Regeneron, which is, even though there are more than, it's 3 different types. Regeneron has gotten the most traction. It is not FDA approved either. It's emergency use authorization, I'll say again. But however, it has been used, and to some success. And it's not a panacea, and it's not a cure-all. But especially with this Delta variant, I just want to keep harping this Delta variant, especially with this Delta variant turning everything upside down. People getting sicker, it's more transmissible. The hospitalization rates and the mortality rates are ever increasing, especially amongst people of color, those that happen to have diabetes and are obese, even more so. But that's wrong. It doesn't have to be an infusion. It's the same medicine can be given both ways.
You got cut off. Can you start back where you were saying?
Okay.
Yeah.
People calling, they blowing me up my phone. That was actually my mom, just to make people in the crowd laugh. I had to delete my mom from the call to keep this going with you, brother. But we talking good information. So the Regeneron.
It was Regeneron. Say it right, because I didn't want to say it out loud. Yeah. Mess up Regeneron. Okay.
Regeneron. That's the one that Trump got, Giuliani got. It has the most steam because it's a combination of 2 what they call monoclonal antibodies. So it's 2 of them, you can give it by infusion, which is what everybody hears. But it can also just be given by injection. Now, the difference in the injection is you have to take 4 shots. So basically, it's only, believe it or not, it is 2 teaspoons worth of medicine, is all it is. So
Wow.
obviously, you can run it in an IV drip over, 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the person's health condition. But it can be split into 4 shots, and you just give subcutaneous shots, so it doesn't even have to go deep into a muscle. No matter which route you give it, it works the same, number one. But number two, you still have to monitor the patient for an hour. Similar to you monitor 15 minutes after they have the vaccine, you have to monitor them for an hour to make sure they don't have an allergic reaction. So I think those are the 2 main things.
So why
I'm going to say,
why do more people? I mean, when I hear people still getting sick, I get that part.
yeah,
But if they're
Yep.
dying, and Giuliani, and the only reason I'm saying Giuliani, because that dude looked like he about to die. He's old. He got. Those gonna say we eat fat back. Hell, white folks eat fat back. Like
Right.
Yeah, I'm like Louisiana. Everybody in Louisiana probably don't eat right. Now I'm just saying, how does Giuliani get that? I'm gonna say it wrong. How does he get that shot? Why don't we just get everybody the shot if they get it?
I want to blow your mind. Then I want to blow your mind. I'm sorry to do this into your audience. The medicine is free. The government is paying for all of the doses. The medicine is actually free. The hospitals, urgent cares, doctor's office, whoever receives it, the medicine is free. And I mentioned CMS before. Actually, Medicare and Medicaid actually pay for it.
So what's up?
So I think the main thing is, I'm about to go there for you. I think some of the disparities in healthcare, you have to go to a doctor who is willing to authorize it for you. That they see your life as valuable as Trump or Giuliani, and that you have COVID or have been a heavy exposure to COVID, and you have the best practices, as you had mentioned, indications for it, of other comorbidities or anything, and they need to refer you and give you a prescription, so to speak, at a center to obtain it. Now, one of the things, so I could stop right there. So that is where we are. It just has to be recommended for you. And in America, while we do have millions still with not proper insurance, I'm sitting there telling you, with COVID as the diagnosis, the medicine has been given free. So all the insurance companies, Medicare or Medicaid, have to pay for is the actual human resources to infuse it in you and the supplies, and for the monitoring 1 hour afterwards.
Wow.
That's it. The medicine's free. As expensive, how expensive that medicine probably is. I mean, this medicine is similar in class. Do you see those, and I laugh when I see them, because my own brother and your fraternity brother is a lawyer. He said I should say attorney. I'm sorry. But he's an attorney. And it's the fine print at the end, or the voice at the end, that says, you've seen the one, this could your last ditch effort to treat colon cancer. But then they start going through the fine print and reading off real fast that it could kill you.
Right.
Or people with those like eczema treatments. I think they had Cyndi Lauper and some of the other celebrities of our age range.
Go ahead.
These treatments, it's the similar medicine of those, but called monoclonal antibodies. But they help boost your immune system in the areas that would help fight COVID. So that medicine is readily available. I'm sitting there telling you, and I'll tell you a personal story, because through my telemedicine company, we are Relief Telemed. We're starting probably next week to start deploying the nurses to go to people's homes. And let's just talk sick and shut in, the elderly, those, in more impoverished areas that, care is forgotten, and the sick and shut in, to send them in there and be able to give the treatment or the injection. Because number one, obviously, like you're saying, people are thinking that it is some mysterious way you have to get it, but it is widely available. And what I was going to tell you, I signed up the company as the physician, chief medical officer, to obtain the medicine. I got the medicine delivered to our company in less than a week.
No.
It's not hard to
No.
obtain at this current time.
No. We about solutions.
They had to verify all of my credentials.
No. You don't have to do it.
I signed the night before. They sent me an email probably on a Monday or Tuesday night. I signed it. I sent it back on a Monday night. By Wednesday morning, they brought me everything I ordered. Or if they brought me 96% of what I ordered, and they drop ship from New York an extra 4 doses because they assured me. So it's available. We just got to get it to our people. I mean, and I'm not trying to limit it to just our people, but I'm just saying in this context, the medicine is available, and we need to get it to our people.
Dr. Andrews, we're talking to our people, so we're very clear.
And that's what I will say with that. It's available, but you have to go to a doctor who's willing to look at you and view you as a human being.
As we wrap up, do you got any some final words, and then we out of here?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is everybody to stay safe, stay healthy. An ounce of prevention is still worth more than a pound of cure.
And just want to thank everybody for joining us on our journey once again. I am because we are, and thank you so much.
This is I Love Black People Radio on H.U.R. Voices, Sirius XM Channel 141. I Love Black People is more than a radio show. I Love Black People is a call from our ancestors to protect us from racial profiling all across the world. Go to iloveblackpeople.com and become a member today. Membership empowers you to live fearlessly and protect Black people globally from racism and xenophobia. Join us today and become a member of our global network with an online global green book with Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses to protect you and your community. Membership is free, and with you, we will become 10 million strong worldwide. I am because we are. Special thanks to Banneker Communities.